Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of water. Get my radio voice going, and let's talk about this, because this is something that's come up. I've had people say, hey, if you're over here promoting plant-based and you're being plant-based, isn't that vegan? I thought you were against veganism, vegan diets. Okay, there's a lot of confusion here. Number one, and we need to be clear, veganism is an ideology, okay? It is an ethical ideology, and I'm actually not a fan of any ideology. My ideology these days is no political ideology. You can agree or disagree with that. I don't care about any form of dogmatic ideology. I don't care what it is. I'm not interested. But on the topic of health and fitness, plant-based, saying a whole foods plant-based diet means that we believe, based upon the scientific evidence, that a diet that is comprised primarily of whole foods and plant-based is better for overall health outcomes. Okay, that's it. Makes no moral judgment. Doesn't say you can never eat anything animal-based. I am currently choosing to not eat any animal-based foods. I've explained in detail why that is. Okay, it's not that I don't think dairy can't be amazing for gains, because it can. But here's what I would say. Keeping in mind, the focus is upon whole plant foods for nutrition, not good and bad. Okay, understand the difference. That is why veganism fails, because it focuses on the good and bad, and many vegans will eat diets that are still garbage, have deficiencies and all these things because it's a moral value for them. Not a, hey, I really need to have balanced nutrition. I need to make sure I have no deficiencies, and I need to focus upon the health and nutrition side. Okay? And tons of foods that are vegan wouldn't be whole foods. And I think that's a perfect example. You know, the fake meats, which if you look at the ingredient list, that's complete garbage half the time. That's not something that's healthy. I mean, push come to shove, some of the fake meats I've seen from a health perspective, and I'm saying this as someone who says a whole foods plant-based diet is generally better. A lean steak would be better. It would be healthier. But people are doing it because of an ethical thing, and you have to understand that difference. So we have to stop connecting veganism with eating a plant-based diet, because they're not the same thing. There can be overlap, and it is possible for a person to do both. It absolutely is. Of course it is. Could a vegan also focus very heavily upon balanced nutrition and health as a primary focus? Sure. But they're now combining the two. They're not mutually exclusive, right? So hopefully we all understand this. I'm coming at this from the perspective of saying we should eat, most of our food should be whole foods and plant-based. I probably need to do a separate video explaining that processed does not mean something's not a whole food. There's a lot of nuance there. That's a complex topic because everything you're eating is processed. Again, whole separate topic. You need to look at individual things and what's happening with the foods and what the processes are and how good or bad they are. That's, again, important. Reminding people that butchering a cow is processing. Cooking is processing. Okay, so you see the problem with saying process is always bad. It's not always bad. In some cases, processing makes food safer, increases the nutritional value, increases bioavailability. In other cases, it adds bad things. In other cases, it removes things that you want. Right? So again, totally different. Again, probably something I should do videos on and discuss the specifics of some of that. But when I say a whole foods plant-based diet, I am not telling you that dairy is bad. So people are like, but you said dairy can be great for athletes. Sure. Why would I take that back? The evidence says that it's true. Did all the evidence disappear? No. So why would I go against that statement? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about health. And when we're talking about filling certain foods of getting protein from this food versus that food, what I am looking at is overall health benefit. Not that this is good or bad, this is healthy, unhealthy. This food might be good, but this food brings a little more, maybe has a different inflammatory response for something specific I'm looking at. That's it. It is not, again, always classifying foods as clear, healthy, and unhealthy. It's like, in the total balance of a diet, would this food here be a slightly healthier choice than this other? Okay. Now, that leaves you some wiggle room, of course. So, I mean, to me, people say, well, what would you count as plant-based? I would say anyone who gets 80% or more of their daily calories from whole foods and plants, because a vegan may not qualify for that. They might not be eating a whole food plant-based diet. Their diet could be 80% junk food that happens to not be animal-based, right? So I'd say at least 80%. I think that's a good number. Is it arbitrary? Did I just make it up? Yes. I think it's a good baseline starting point. And I think once you're about there and up, you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet, if that is where 80% or more of your calories are coming from. Whether you choose to do for that remaining, is it 5, 10, 20, 0% anything animal, there's a lot of nuance there. In my case, like I said, I am choosing to fill a lot of that with tofu and things. I'm not eating any animal stuff day to day. Is that to say that at a social gathering I'm not going to eat it? No, because I don't have a moral issue and I'm not going to. In fact, I would make the argument that if food is going to go to waste that someone else has prepared and it's reasonably healthy, I'm not going to throw it away upon some bizarre ethical principle. I could argue that that's unethical. It's wasting food. Okay, but I guess the other thing that I would say to the militant vegans, you're not going to win anyone over with your militantism. You should want people to do what I'm doing and saying, hey, we probably should cut back on these animal products. We should probably be eating more plant-based, because that's the only way you're ever going to win socially. As long as there's a massive demand for those products, they will exist. You are not going to change people in the other direction. But if you can see what I'm doing and people like me are doing, of course, it will create less demand. And you're never going to remove all animal harm from food processing. Growing your crops is going to do that. So if they wanted to argue about harm reduction, they should probably not be so militant and say, hey, what he's talking about is actually a good idea. It still serves your interest. But no, I don't buy fully into that ethical end of it. I don't. Could we argue about overall harm reduction? Sure, I think we could do that, and I think that's reasonable. But the point is, whole foods diet doesn't mean that I'm telling you, oh, you can't have some lean dairy. I think you should avoid all added saturated fat. I think that's reasonable. I don't think you should eat anything high in saturated fat if you want to be healthy, if optimal health is your goal. But I would also say you shouldn't be eating refined sugars. They're both equally bad in excess. But if you cut them to as low as possible, you're probably going to have better outcomes. But as low as possible for one person is not as low as possible for another. But again, the whole point here is I'm not telling people not to eat some chicken breast. I'm not telling them not to eat fat-free dairy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying those things are necessarily bad. I'm not telling you that they are not great for gains, because they can be. Particularly dairy can be phenomenal for athletes. All I'm saying is, in my personal case, with what I am doing personally, looking at the overall sum total of what the individual foods bring to the table, I feel like I can get better inflammation control, better total nutrition, again, more omega-3 fats, more omega-6 fats, again, PUFAs being what we want, better isoflavones, more phytonutrients, more antioxidants, if I happen to get my protein from other sources. And that's all I'm saying, for me personally. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.